Does that not mean small phone in your language? Is it actually not bigger than most of your phones? Would it not be a macro phone? I see. All right.
Hi, Bashar.
And a you good day.
I was interested to know, with regard to the genetic manipulation, how that relates to our DNA and the concept of 12 strands versus 2-stranded DNA.
All right. All 12-strand concepts are not capable of being experienced in physical reality. The most that you can experience in physical reality of any kind is 3 strands of DNA. The other are, in that sense, connected to higher dimensional planes that will be non-physicalized, but still nevertheless carry the energetic imprint that will translate down into physical reality in whatever way, shape, or form it needs to through the 3 or 2 strands that are available physically for that translation to occur in. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
the other strands, as you call them, are energy strands that are in higher levels, higher planes of existence that are connected to and relate to the idea to some degree of soul blueprint levels. Yes. In that sense, the soul blueprint could be said to be a type of genetic material, but it's non-physical. So the concept of the 12 strands of DNA, or shall we say the idea of the 9 above physical reality, is that the 9 are embedded in the soul blueprint, but they're non-physically embedded. But they nevertheless affect the 2 or 3 that are capable of being experienced in physical reality to act as a conduit to bring those energies through. Does that make sense?
Oh, it definitely does. So I have heard in Pleiadian transmissions the idea that when we were genetically manipulated, that we were disconnected from our 12 down to 2, so that our capacities had been minimalized, and that this process of awakening was about this return. Is that different than?
In some senses, this is so. A variety of events are responsible for the idea of the experience of the disconnection. But yes, the idea now is that as you are reconnecting to the concept in awareness of your soul blueprint, you are reconnecting to the other strands of DNA that are non-physical, yes.
So, but with a notion of somehow we were damaged, that we...
You are not damaged. You are not damaged. You were not slaves. Nevertheless, the idea of the introduction of extraterrestrial DNA into the hominid species that created humans did contain switching mechanisms. But the switching mechanisms, in that sense, unbeknownst to the extraterrestrials who created that blending, actually had other ways of turning on than the extraterrestrials even understood. And they actually did turn on by themselves. Now, in and around Atlantean times, however, humans themselves, when they explored the idea of polarity to such extreme degrees, then began turning some of them off themselves. You follow me? So in that sense, it's not that they did that, it's that you did. Nevertheless, what you were attempting to do was mimic what you thought they were all about. In other words, you were attempting to make yourselves as you thought of them as gods. And in so doing, by not yet being prepared to understand what that all meant in a blended and balanced way, and in some senses actually mimicking some of the things they had done, because understand, they were not all that completely balanced, then you actually recreated something that they had already created in their society that also allowed you to go astray. You thought you were copying perfection, and all the imperfections came with it. You follow?
Yes, yes.
So, now you're waking up to the fact that it's not about revering anyone in that sense as a god. It's about connecting to your own godhood in a balanced and blended way. And making it your own, and not attempting to imitate anyone. Not attempting to imitate us, but making it your own unique expression of your connection to all that is. Does that make sense?
Yes, excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now then, in this idea of the reality generation circuit, Let's have a small meditation to lock this in, anchor this in as it connects and relates to the idea of the soul blueprint. Become comfortable as you believe it is possible to become. And remember, during this meditation, you do not need to exclude anything, any sound, any feeling, any sight, any smell. Include everything as part of it. It all belongs, otherwise it wouldn't be. Invite everything in, leave nothing out. Let its energy add to the energy that drives you deeper and deeper and deeper into the meditation and into an understanding of what is being delivered here today. View, if you will, infinite and empty black space. Endless, endless, endless black space. No stars, no light. You are floating in emptiness. And it isn't even you in terms of your body, just your awareness. Everywhere your awareness turns, everywhere your awareness looks, empty, empty, empty black. Until you spot within yourself one bright spark of light. Like a tiny, tiny, tiny star floating in the infinite blackness. Just one. Just the one that you are in the center of your consciousness. Even though it is in the center of yourself, you can still see it as if it were in some senses outside you. As if you were looking in on yourself. Yet it is in the center of yourself. This is your first relationship and connection to Source and all that is. And from this, the light expands and expands and expands and expands until it fills all of the space with whiteness, bright light, beautiful light. Until there is nothing but the light, and you are in the center of it. And then, in that center, a small spot of dark, like a little black hole. In the center of all the infinite light, a small black speck floating in the center of your being. And you know that if you look into that speck, you will see the infinite darkness that you experienced a moment ago. But you know that if you look into that infinite darkness at the very center, you will also see another spark of light. And if you look into that, you will see infinite lightness that you are experiencing now. But you know at the center of that will also be a speck of dark. On and on and on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever without end. Will always be the darkness and the lightness and the dark. One feeding into another, one expanding from the other, one giving birth to the other, and without the other, neither exists. For you cannot know one without that you know the other. For without the other, there is not the knowledge that another exists. So to have one, you must have the two. Dark and light, light and dark. Extend from one and the same creation. They are source. They are all that is. All that is. This light and dark, one unto the other forever, thus then creates patterns within itself. Patterns within patterns within patterns of darkness and light, lightness and dark, patterns and patterns and patterns, filling itself infinitely with patterns of light and dark in a variety of shapes, sizes, configurations, extents, distances, times. Light and dark, vibration upon vibration upon vibration, like ripples in a pond, overlapping, 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 until there is nothing but small vibrations everywhere of light and dark. And out of this sea of seething back and forth polarization energy, certain facets start to crystallize and become self-aware, reflective consciousnesses, miniature versions of all that is, infinite unto themselves and yet finite compared to the infinite. Again, infinity containing finiteness and the concept of finiteness extending to infinity. More and more crystallizations until the entirety is crystallized, but full of small crystallizations, autonomous unto themselves. Each of these crystallizations is made up of a signature of many vibrations. It is a soul blueprint, each unique, different, and each looking into the center of itself creates a window, a prism, a triangle, a tetrahedron in its very center of space-time. 3 positions of space, 1 of time, the tetrahedron, 4th dimensional structure, through which, like an eye, it peers into an unbelievable experience of the reality of all that is in 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, and projects itself through that window, creates a personality construct to hold itself, contain itself, identify itself as a vehicle for traveling in that type of space, in that type of reality. Each personality being like unto its own time-space ship, in which the consciousness can project, in which the consciousness can ride and experience that reality, much like a diving bell experiences the deep blue sea. That personality construct is created from the definition of it, the feeling of it, the behavior of it. And thus then, the quality of those things determine the quality of the view you get through the windows in each of those sides. The more clear and balanced the definitions and beliefs, the more clear and balanced the emotions and thoughts, the more clear and balanced and in alignment the behaviors. The clearer the view, the more transparent the view of the reality you are exploring in space-time. And then you encounter a whirlpool, a current, an eddy, a seismic event, a ripple, a tidal wave, something that throws you off course. And you go spinning off into the depths of the dark, dark ocean, all the way down to the blackness, all the way down, until you come to rest on the cold, hard ocean floor of physical reality. And you lie there for a moment, stunned, beset upon by great pressure of the water and energy above you, holding you down, holding you down, holding you down. And you do your best to move, and all you can do is crawl along the ocean floor with the great pressure on your back. And you vaguely remember what it was like to swim free, what it was like to move up or down, left or right, forward and back, what it was like to see the light high above you as you crawl through the sediment of ages past, through the history of the rocks and the beginning of time. And you crawl, and you crawl, and you crawl in the darkness for a long, long time. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to realize that you are crawling up a slightly inclined slope, slightly upward, so slight you almost didn't recognize, because it is still so dark that there is no relative way to tell, but you can feel the difference in angle. The angle is different. Your head is once more slightly elevated, slightly pointed back up. You still cannot see the light, but you know it's up there somewhere. And so you keep crawling and keep crawling, upward, upward, upward. And the slope is long and shallow, and it seems to be taking forever and ever, and there still is no light. No light. No light. And as you keep crawling and keep crawling and keep crawling, suddenly your eyes adjust and you realize it's not quite so dark anymore. It is now shades of gray. And you allow the gray in to feed you information, to remind you of the brilliance of the light, even though this is a pale comparison. It reminds you and feeds you and inspires you and spurs you to keep going, to keep climbing, to keep climbing, to keep climbing. And the slope bends upward, more abruptly, more abruptly, more abruptly. And you begin to feel some of the weight being lifted, the pressure, the load lightening up. And a little more light leaks through, and a little more light leaks through, and now you can see you are not alone. There are others all around you crawling up the slope with you. And you realize you were never really alone, but just so in the dark you could not see that you had company. And upward you go, and upward you go, and upward you go. And pretty soon it's lighter and brighter and lighter and brighter, and now you're not crawling anymore. You're starting to swim a little bit. You still sink down a little bit to the slope, but you can push off and float for a while. Push off and float up. Push off and float up and up and up and up. Until your feet are only barely touching the slope, and you are starting to stand, and your head is high. And now you can see others around you, not only of your own kind, but all sorts of life, floating up with you, inviting you higher, higher. And there is beautiful, beautiful light and music coming from the surface, above the surface. And you float up and up and up, no longer caring what the slope of the floor is, for now you are free of it. And you float upward and upward and upward, and now the light is getting bright and brighter and brighter, and so bright you almost have to squint. But soon you get used to it. It is shimmering, iridescent, sparkling, beautiful, alluring, inviting. And in one breathtaking splash, you break the surface and can see the infinite expanse of the ocean all around you, and all the others bobbing up and down in the sea, looking around, blinking their eyes awake, moving from one density to another, their heads poking up into the air, breathing the air again, the cool, fresh air, filling your lungs, invigorating, inspiring, energizing you. And to the point where you begin to rise higher and higher and higher in the ocean, until you actually rise above the water, floating above the water, rising into the sky, higher and higher and higher, into the clouds, through the clouds, above the clouds. And you look down below you and see the beautiful blue ocean and the swirling white clouds. And you rise higher and higher and higher, and look toward the sun, the bright star of your solar system, and move toward it. But all around you now is blackness and other stars. You are in space. And you look down upon your beautiful globe, your beautiful earth. And you remember the long path. You remember diving down, wanting to play, wanting to explore, wanting to investigate. And you remember the unexpected eddy, the unexpected current, the unexpected whirlpool that drug you down to the ocean floor. And you remember being down there for a long, long time. But then you remember crawling, and then you remember walking, and then you remember climbing, and then you remember rising, and then you remember being back up here above the clouds, back up in space, moving toward the sun as it gets brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter, and moving into the sun, into the heart of the light, the bright, fiery light, into the heart of creation. And the light is bright, but it does not burn. It supports and sustains, and it is what you are made of. And you look back from the sun, from the light of all that is, to the earth, and you remember it as a journey, as a treasured path, as an experience never to be forgotten and always to be cherished. And you are now of the stars. You are the stars themselves that give birth and life to the various planets upon which many such journeys are possible. And you marvel at the myriad possibilities within creation, the infinite number of journeys that have been taken by a variety of versions of you, simultaneously, side by side, across the gulfs of space, time, and dimensionality, going on multiple journeys, infinite multiple journeys simultaneously, and collecting yourself back into the oversoul that is the star of many systems, that is the light of consciousness of many dimensions, and to the source of all that is. Your oversoul rises with other oversouls, each oversoul containing multiple millions of lifetimes, and each oversoul rising together to blend into the one, the all that is. Each experience fully remembered, fully retained, and yet also simultaneously harmonized with the one. This is your natural state of being. This is who you are. And the soul blueprint is but a reminder of this connection. It is but an echo of this connection. Yet through it, your personality can always be reminded by listening to the clear tone, the clear chord, the clear ringing of the bell that reminds you that whenever you are having difficulty and doubt, whenever you are in trouble, come home, come home, come home. You can always leave again. And you can always come back. Back and forth. Back and forth, lubricating the path, gliding from the personality to the soul blueprint, to the source, to the soul blueprint, to the personality, to the multiple lives, back to the source, any direction you wish, any way you wish, any when you wish. Take a deep breath in, and lock this certainty in. Lock it in. It is who you are. And understand that you are now changed. And that the personality you were, the personality that came to this transmission, is not the personality who will leave this transmission. And this is a different transmission on a different world, on a different day, in a different place. And that what began is another place and time from where you are now and who you are now. Breathe deep and know the certainty of who you are. Incorporate this vibration in every cell of your being. Take the time you have made. Take the time you are making to express that which is you as fully as you can. Take another deep breath. Open your eyes if they are closed. And connect to a new reality, a bubble reality, that is not the same world that was here before, not the same person that was here before. Let go, let go, let go. And connect into the new you. One more deep breath with your eyes open. Feeling clear, clean, fresh, and transparent. Would you all enjoy a short break? Then you may take your break and we will resume this transmission shortly. Let it soak in.